Hey, it's Mike DiSalvo, and you're watching Agoraphobic News.
Hey, Mills here of Agoraphobic News, this time with Mr. Mike DiSalvo of Coma Cluster Void / Akurion. Hello, sir. How are you today?
What's happening? How are you? Thanks for having me.
Doing great as always. So, what is going on with Coma Cluster Void right now? So, do you guys have something new, like do you have the album coming out or something like that?
Well, we're working on the third album right now. So, there's been a bit of a slow process, I'd say, right now.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I think everyone's just been busy, and that's how it goes sometimes. But it's definitely we're focused, and we're putting the album together. We've got two songs done, a third one that's being worked on, and I think a fourth one's actually being worked on as well. So it is definitely good progress. So that's good.
Awesome, that's awesome. And so, but the last song that you released was Plague. What's the name? Plague Devourer, right? In 2021. So is it going to be a part of that album, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think what I think at the time what Gene wanted to do was to just have something to show people, like, hey, we're still active. It's happening. This is what with that particular lineup. This is a song that we put together, and so that's the first one that we released, and that will be on the album as well for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have the album title or something like that, or?
Right now, we're running with Absurd Romanticism.
Okay, that's cool. And is there like some meaning behind it, or like?
Well, it was a lyric that was on the first album that I had written, and I know it definitely resonated with Gene and Sylvia, and they said, you know what, like, this is from years ago. Like, it was already planned out that this would be what we would call it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And what is like the current lineup of the band? Like, did something change or not? Like,
from the last album to this album, we have Lindsay O'Connor who's joined, and Michael Ran, drums. So, but everyone else, Austin and myself and Gene and Sylvia, obviously, we're from the first two albums. So,
yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, I'm really stoked to hear that. And so here, I have one question from my patron, Petr Jonovic. So he asks, what does Akurion mean? So what's the meaning behind the band's name?
Okay, so Akurion actually is an H.P. Lovecraft name that he had given a watermark for one of his stories. What he basically in the story, The Doom That Came to Sarnath. What he does is when the water rises up past that in the ocean, is the city that's the Sarnath is the city that's next to it. When the water rises up past that, the lizard people come out and devastate the town, in the entire town. So,
amazing.
I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan, and we went over dozens of names, and I was like, you know what, man? Like, I read this short story, and it's short. It's like a 5-page or 6-page or something. But it's it's super cool. It's if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft, I pretty much love everything the guy wrote. And I was like, that Akurion, this name keeps coming back to me. It's I think maybe a little bit poignant in terms of what we were trying to do, this watermark. We were trying to make an album that was something, certainly that something meant, mostly to us. As we wrote that record, we were writing it for us. And I think the name just sort of fit with what we had set out to do for that. So
yeah, amazing. Yeah. And do you guys plan to release something with Akurion in the future?
There's been no plans as of now. I don't live in the country anymore, so I'm back in the States. So it'll make it more difficult. But I'll never say never. I mean, I love those guys, and I had it was a vitally important part of my life, putting that together with those guys, and I know they feel the same way. So to say that it's completely over. I don't know that I could say that.
Yeah. And when I was listening to the album, it reminded me of the Black Dahlia murder. So, and I was like, man, like this sounds like something that Black Dahlia murder would come up, because it's not dissonant or anything. It's like more melodic sound, etc. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Well,
love it.
that's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what other people's opinions are, what they feel from the albums and what they feel from the songs, and that's actually one I have not heard. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And did you used to know Trevor Sternad?
I did. I never met him, but we were writing back and forth, and in fact, actually, we had gotten to it at the time I was living in Montreal, and he had said, next time I come in, we're gonna hang, and I was like, awesome! I'm super excited. Can't wait for it. And then, of course, it didn't happen. So
yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Really cool guy. Was super supportive. He had his segment. I forget if it was on Metal Sucks or I forget where his segment was, but he was definitely a promoter of our music with CCV and Akurion, and he was just a cool all around guy. I think you ask anyone in the scene, and everyone loved that guy. So
yeah. And did you know? So were you a fan of Jim Durkin? He unfortunately also passed away like recently, a couple of days ago.
Brutal. Yes, of course, absolutely. More so for the first record. The second and third record. I definitely liked those records. But I don't think they spoke to me as much as the first record did.
Yeah, we have arrived. Yeah.
It's like, come on, it's amazing. So yeah, I mean, of course, absolutely. Anytime I see anytime a fallen metal brother, passes on, man, it's terrible. 58, I think. So
it's
like, I'm 51, man, and it's like, it can happen like this. It can happen anytime. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah. But like, I mean, like it's a part of life. Death is part of life. But yeah, like when you think about it, like how many people died recently, like it's just insane. Like, and it's never gonna stop. It's gonna be more and more and more. So yeah.
I'm sorry. How did he pass? I didn't read. I didn't see what.
I didn't want to go. Like, I was just like, man, this is tragedy, and I didn't even want to know how it happened. Like, it's like enough for me to know that he passed away, and he's a legend. So yeah, but like I didn't want to go through. It's like, I don't like these details. So whatever happened, it's bad. So we know the end result. So I never want to know like what actually happened or whatever. So.
An absolute pioneer in this type of music, and I think anyone that listens to metal, especially from back in the day, this is a guy that that one definitely gets for sure.
Yeah, legend. Yeah, so I don't know what to say, like, because I'm a huge Dark Angel fan, so yeah, but it's just a tragedy. So
I saw them on the Lee Scars tour. I think Destruction maybe opened for him or something. They were awesome. I mean, Gene Hogan was playing drums, and they were. I gotta say, like I said, it's a band I like, and I got all three records on vinyl, and so it's definitely, I'm super familiar with the albums. It's, for whatever reason, I just don't go back to them per se, but that does not reflect my impression of them, because they are pioneers, and they are, I mean, the fucking songs are, these are immense, they're just like super well thought out, songs. The albums are, the one thing that always kind of struck me is the fast pace of the lyrics. Like, I mean, how quick he was.
Yeah, and the lyrics are like, the lyric sheets are like this,
Seriously, man. I was like, how the hell does he, just as a vocalist? I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of breathing.
Yeah. The only guy that can match that is Sean Killian Violence. Like the Dark Angel guys and Sean Killian, like their lyrics are like this. It's like a scroll of 50 meters long scroll.
There is no space on it for, anything but, straight vicious fucking vocals, and awesome.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Okay, and back to Lovecraft. So, what is your favorite Lovecraft novel?
Oh man, I got a lot of them. The Mountains of Madness, I love. Geez, I like In the Mountains of Madness. Sorry. Innsmouth. What the hell's that one called? Innsmouth. Geez, I'm missing a part of it, but Innsmouth. It's actually the Innsmouth story is based in Massachusetts, where one of my buddies lives. It's actually they believe that the town of Innsmouth was it's a fabricated
Fake
town.
city. Yeah.
But
Fictional.
my buddy lives in Rowley, Mass, and so he was looking into it, and it seems like Innsmouth, the story may actually be from where he lives. He's also a huge. The Color Out of Space, also awesome. What else the other one? I don't know. You caught me
Off guard.
The mind is gone.
Yeah.
But there are many that I just adore as story. I think I've read every one of them. To be honest with you,
I haven't, but I read like the best one was Rats in the Wall. Like
Rats in the Wall.
I had a dream after that, like no rats. It's just
Amazing.
insane, but yeah, it's like one of the scariest,
the Reanimator he did. Geez, I mean, the Curious Case of Charles Dexter Ward, also awesome. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many of them. I just there's a couple stinkers along the way. I mean, you can't have amazing shit entirely. I don't think anyone ever does, but by and large, 95% of what the guy writes, I just love his storytelling and the way he writes or the way he wrote. Just a brilliant writer. I don't care about his past or anything about what he is. It doesn't matter to me. What I care about is what I'm reading, and he's just amazing.
He's like as influential as Jesus Christ in metal,
Right, man. Absolutely. I don't think you're wrong at all.
Like the two most influential people in metal, Jesus Christ and Lovecraft.
Devil.
And devil, but like Jesus is a part of the devil. So
fair enough. Yeah. Totally. 100%. And I know it's kind of cliche, like a lot of people, it's H.P. Lovecraft, but what the fuck, man? The stories are like there. So how can you not find some inspiration from that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, let me check the questions.
Oh, the Dunwich Horror. That's the other one I really like. The Dunwich Horror.
I think I read it, but I forgot it. I had some book. It's like it was a compilation of his novels, but I didn't read all of them. So yeah, but I remember like the best one was Rats in the Wall. Like it stuck in my head, and I had a dream about rats after that.
I hear that. Yeah, so the song on the Akurion record, Yet You See Them Not, is based on the Dunwich Horror.
Yeah. And actually is that like the creature from Sepultura's Arise, is that Eeg whatever Satot or what I don't know how to pronounce it. So yeah, that's really cool. Okay, and let me check other questions. So, and what's the meaning behind Coma Cluster Void? What's like the meaning of the band's name? Like, is there any meaning or?
If there is, I don't know. I know it's the brainchild of Gene Strider, but where she came up with the name, I honestly I don't have an answer for you. That's one that that's actually, if believe it or not, that's the first time that question's ever come my way.
Okay, and yeah. And so, like, how did you end up in that band? Like, how did that happen?
It's kind of a funny story. Of all places, both Gene and Sylvia had reached out to me through LinkedIn, and I had a profile. I still have a profile on there, but I mean, it's not even something. It's not even a medium I use. I used it a short period of time for work that I was doing, and I had to make connections with other businesses and shit like that. So that's the only reason I had it. But I had a few connections with music through there. But generally speaking, it's not something that I've ever had anyone reach out to me music wise. And I did get 2 messages from both from Gene and Sylvia from there, and they had asked me. I think Gene had sent me at the time a couple of like 30-second snippets of songs that she was working on, and those songs struck me immediately. As soon as I heard them, I was like, Jesus, like this is like beyond. This is suffocating. Like, I mean, it's as my wife used to say, it's cancer on tape. Like it's just pile driven into the ground with it. And for me to and I've had people come to me over the years and said, would you like to do a project with me, or and I always gracefully decline. Just it's for whatever reason, it just had whether it didn't speak to me enough, or I was busy with other shit, or whatever the reason was. This is one that as soon as I heard those 3 or 4 snippets that she had sent me, I was like, okay, this is something different and something unique, and something that I can already tell is going to be a challenge. And I was I was certainly interested to take on a challenge, to do something I hadn't done, or at least a style I hadn't actively done. I mean, Cryptopsy's wild and crazy, and there's lots of time changes and things like that, but it's not dissonant. It's not it's not
Actually,
the same.
it is, but not in the same way.
Not
Cryptopsy
the
is
same
like
way.
yeah. Coma Cluster Void is like more djenty, dissonant death metal, but Cryptopsy has like dissonance, but also has like melodic side. Unlike
Absolutely.
Gorguts, who is
Yep.
like has the dissonance but doesn't have melody as much, at least on Obscura. So yeah, but this is like more modern.
Yeah, and that's it. The one thing that struck me with Coma Cluster Void was that when Gene was writing the songs, like there's an element of I know this goes with the dissonant name or title label, but there's something to be said when you've got 4 or 5 guitar parts that don't sound like they should be together, that work perfectly in time with one another. You know what I mean? And I just remember listening to it and just being like, holy fuck, man. Like this is the challenge, challenge accepted. I want to do but then when you sit and you listen to these songs, you're like, okay, now I got to really figure out where I'm going to place all this stuff. How am I going to place these lyrics? On the first album, I wrote I don't know, 75% of the album, I guess lyrically. Chris Burrows had written a song or 2 maybe at the time. I forget exactly what it was, but I'd written most of the album, and then for Thoughts from a Stone, I had written that whole piece. That was an incredible challenge to be able to put together a song and it's something I always wanted to do. I'm a big long song guy, so for me, Pink Floyd songs, these 24-minute long songs, I gravitate towards that. I love it. So to do that in the metal realm was like, oh my God, this is like candy and a baby in a candy shop, So
awesome.
Very excited.
Yeah, and you mentioned so how would you label Coma Cluster Void's music? Like how would you if you had to put it in one genre, where would you put it?
Oh geez, I mean, dissonant for sure. I look at it as like I said, like a suffocating, catastrophic music. Like it's just it's so intense. Like I listen to it with I say this and I don't listen to it. It's not like I sit and listen to everything I do all the time, but I look for it occasionally after it's done, because you spend so much time with it, and usually I need some time to pull myself away from it. But then I'll come back around and listen to it with fresh ears, and that's always an album that I'm just at both those albums. I'm just like, holy, like it amazes me to see what we put together in how we put together, and the fact that we've never met each other. So
yeah.
like, I mean, I've spoken to Jean, via Skype or whatever. I think it was Skype that I had spoken to her, but that's it. I mean, we have not actually, and by email all the time. We have a great connection through email, and we understand each other perfectly through that. So it is a medium that works for us. But still, when you just when you sit back and listen to it with headphones, and you just hear the claustrophobic, catastrophic risk. I mean, it's something to behold, even for myself. And I was part of it, but to pull myself out of being part of it and listen to it as a fan, it's a different experience.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. I know they all are.
Yeah, of course. And so how many vocalists do you have now in the band? Is it 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, Austin, myself, and Lindsay.
Lindsay. So it's 3. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome to hear.
I'm trying to get Jean to sing. I'm trying to get Sylvia in there to sing a little bit. She actually did on that song. I think she also does some backgrounds with Lindsay.
She had like I think it's Sylvia, like the poetic parts on the Thoughts from Stone, or maybe even on the first album, I forgot. But there are like some like I don't know how to say it. It's like a poem, at the beginning or at the end of the song.
Yeah, so there are some spoken word parts that my wife Gennevieve had. So she had done the spoken word parts on both records and had done some heavy vocals on. Is she doing on that record? I think she just did the heavy vocals on Thoughts from a Stone, and my kids did on that poem, that like poetic part that I think you're talking about in the middle of the song, the chanting part. My kids did vocals for that too. So we had, and so Sylvia did some melodies where she's singing before we go into the actual chanting part, and she does some melodies there, beautiful melodies. So I mean, she has a great voice. So I hope we can incorporate her into additional stuff. I'm sure I'm sure it'll happen, but there's a lot of configuring before we get to that type of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of times like Jean will have everything sort of laid out in terms of how she wants things to be done, and then it's left with me or with so far. I wrote the Plague Devourer, and Austin wrote the other one that nobody's heard yet, and then we have another one that's coming out, and I'm not sure who's doing that one right now. So we are sharing some of those duties, which is good. It gets a different perspective in there. I encourage that. I think it's important for this project, actually.
Yeah. And so your wife is also part of the Akurion, right?
She did. I had her do Petals from a Rose, eventually Wither to Black, and I had her do some vocals in that. She does some heavy vocals on that as well. My wife is passed. She passed in 2018. So that was the last. That song was the last one that we had recorded. We recorded right in my basement. We were drinking sake and getting loaded and just recording it. It was a beautiful moment, actually.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, but I don't know what to say. But it's tragedy, But
the fucking worst thing that's ever happened in my life, for sure.
Yeah. Just huge loss. Okay, and so give me a second. So what's like the idea behind the Mind Cemeteries album? Like, is there like some concept behind it or something like that? Like what does the Mind Cemeteries mean?
Not so much a concept per se. I think we started to come up with a concept out of that album, more than the album itself. And we actually had Gene and I had plans to have a full story, actually go into talk about the Iron Empress and songs like that. That was one of the songs that had had been, and actually the lyric "Absurd Romanticism" comes out of that song.
Yeah.
So what we were going to do is that piece became a story out of that was Thoughts from a Stone, and then from Thoughts from a Stone we were going to do a full concept album, which we, I guess, maybe put on the back burner for a bit, or maybe forever. Who knows? we had a concept that we had spoken about how we were looking at what we could do with, things like the Plague Devourer. That's also from that concept. And that would have been part of what we would have worked towards to do this whole sort of story behind Absurd Romanticism, or if it was going to be something else, I don't know yet. But we did have a full concept in mind, and we had plotted out how we were going to, or at least, whether it was going to be, I mean, it would have been simultaneous through the songs, but we didn't have song titles per se. But we had ideas of what each song, let's say it was 10 songs or 12 songs. I don't recall exactly what it was, but we had planned out how that story was going to go. And then each song would, obviously reflect, that whole album would be a full concept based on the Iron Empress and Thoughts from Stone.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
Mind Cemeteries was just a title I had come up with for the lyrics for that particular song, and it was, I mean, I think at the time it was just a reflection of, where you can place yourself in life sometimes, and I think it was more in line of that. I don't think we had at the time, we definitely didn't have a full concept in mind, but some of the songs do. There's a lot of the songs are grief driven and just human emotion and things of that sort, and sort of exploring how deep you can go in terms of how dark you can go. And there's definitely some songs that explore that. But like I said, it really, where it started to become a concept was based out of that one song, and then it sort of blossomed from there.
Yeah, awesome. But so where do you think that your lyrics are more personal or not?
A lot of times they.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm struggling to some lyricists are more direct, but it's hard to get what the song is about. So yeah, it's kind of hard.
Absolutely, I write it like that, man. I put a conscious effort on not being so direct. I like people to, if they're going to spend the time to read it, if they're interested and they're, and it's something that speaks to them. Oftentimes it speaks to them in different manners than what I had actually, the impression of what it meant to me when I was writing it. So, and I love that. I love that aspect of lyricism and, poetry or books or anything. Everything, once it leaves me, it's open to interpretation of whatever.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it has So what you can say that one song has 1,000 lives because 1,000 people will interpret it in different ways. So that's cool about art. It's the same with paintings or whatever. So yeah, that's
well
cool.
said, man. That's well said. Absolutely. I love the fact that words can conjure different meanings for people, and for me, like I said, I really do try to put an effort on not trying to obscure it per se, but definitely mask it a bit, so that
to make it more tricky.
I try to make it a little more trickier, try to play with some words and, not just be so direct and stuff. I could write direct. I could do it if I want. And sometimes it is more direct. Songs are more direct, but I find a lot of merit in people. If they're interested, they're going to read it and they're going to extract what it means for them. And, that's beautiful to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Okay, and so why did you guys decide for the Thoughts from Stone to be a 20 something minutes release? Why did you decide to have a EP instead of a full length album?
I think Gene had been on it right It's immediately after we had finished the record. She was already working on that, and that actually happened incredibly fast. It really went from release of that record, release of Mind Cemeteries, and then bang, we were already in it, writing stuff, and excuse me, or she had sent us sort of a layout of how the song was going to progress before we heard note one. But I think she was already knee deep in it at that point, because it just happened. The turnaround was so quick, before, from when we were talking about it to when she presented, the song structures. And I mean, and then we released it. What did we released it a year later, max? I mean, it really went quickly. Then once it was in my possession, and I had heard, I think the first round that I had heard was a drum machine, if I remember correctly. I don't think Chris had done the drums quite yet, or had done some of it, and some of it was a drum machine or something. So I had already started to piece some lyrics to it. I mean, that's a bit of a book in lyrics as well. Yeah. And I had to be really concentrated on making sure that the story melded and it didn't get lost in lots of different phrasings and things like that. So that was really that was quite a challenge, to put that 24-minute long song together. And so this was something that she had planned from the go. It was going to be a long EP. It was going to be a long one song, and we were going to release it as exploring the Iron Empress, the character of the Iron Empress, and what was going on in her world. And so we worked together quite vigorously on that, actually. Everything was by design. I will say that everything was by design. It was nothing was left sort of as, I knew exactly what she wanted. We did make some changes along the way, in terms of placement and things like that. But generally speaking, I had a map in front of me of where it was going to be, how it was going to be placed, and then I had carte blanche to write how I wanted to write it.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, can you explain this Iron Empress character? Like, who is she? What is she all about?
Well, oh my, I gotta revisit that to my heart. Oh my god.
I caught you off guard. Yeah.
Look, she's a very, very strong character. The character was designed to be a very strong, prominent female character that sort of carries war with her when she comes into play. We talked a lot about like the Plague Devourer and a few other characters that were in there. And part of this world was going to be something that these creatures were kind of sent through dimensions to whatever this land was. Mm-hmm. And the Iron Empress was one that was going to fend off against these types of creatures, or control them, whichever way you kind of pull from it. And that's sort of, that when we had written that song, I think they had given me the title, and I sort of went with it from there. And it was this just massive force, this massive presence that was sort of obliterating everything in her way. And then we just sort of evolved from there. And from that character, we started to create another sort of world within this world, I'm trying to find the exact, it is definitely in line with that, but to give you like precise,
it's cool,
direction,
and and like the
my mindset was 5 years ago on it. It's not going to be the same mindset on it. So
and like the Plague Devourer, it reminds me of some Warhammer fantasy universe thing.
So
of some
we
sort.
Gene had created a couple of characters where I think actually on the single, you'll see one of the characters, what her impression of that character was. So when you look at the single of it, there is a piece of artwork that she had created for it. In her mind, she had created several of these. She's an artist,
That's cool.
so
Yeah,
she's a
yeah,
great artist.
yeah,
So she really has a great vision when it comes to that. She had put together a series of these characters in in form, so we could actually, okay, well, that's, yeah, I could see that. We had this like image of this character kind of, fumigating humans, just kind of coming down and fumigating these people, and another one just kind of like wiping them down like like they were crops, just
yeah,
coming in
yeah,
and sort of slaughtering them that way. As we had progressed with the story, we were talking about having a character that sort of banded people together to sort of stand up against this oppression. And I definitely don't want to say it has anything to do with today or 5 years ago, or whatever was going on in the world, because it wasn't. But I think you can in some
yeah.
ways
Connect the dots.
again, yeah, but it's not. It certainly wasn't something
Yeah,
that when we started to create these characters, and then furthermore, we were planning out this album. It really didn't have anything to do with anything but a story, which I think is quite cool. It's not
yeah,
basing it on you know anything that's going on in real life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah. And so, but who is like the biggest musical genius in Coma Cluster Void? Like who is the mastermind, the musical mastermind of the band?
That would be Gene. Absolutely, Gene's writing all the stuff. I mean, Sylvia, I know is right alongside her. Um, but Gene is the one who has had the master plan.
Yeah,
The one who will, she and I say this and I don't mean that she's dictating anything. She's not. But she is, she's the leader. I mean, she will dictate in terms of, like things like this is the type of beat I want over this, or I have this, I would like to have lyrics in this kind of fashion coming in, or in this arrangement or something like that. But it's never she is certainly wide open to suggestions, and it's not although she is the mastermind behind the project, she is definitely not stuck in one way or no way. It's never been
yeah,
like, which makes
yeah,
it
yeah,
easier. There are things that
yeah,
she's very, very clear on, and that's okay. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, if I joined the project, it was her project, so
yeah,
I have plenty of say. If I always assume if you have me in your project, well, it's because you trust what I can bring to the table. So, and I, we've talked about that, her and I know that's, she really is wide open to suggestions, and generally leaves me alone with what I write. So I never feel like, I always do say, she'll say, oh, you're part of the project. Of course I'm part of the project, yes, but it is your project, and I think,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's noble, that's cool. Like I always say that, but there is it's no malice to it. It's just, that's what it is. It's your
yeah,
project,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm part of that project, and I'm and I have a very prominent role in that project. But it's still the end result is, does she agree with it? Does she accept that part? If she's going to change riffing around, it's going to be done by her. If there's drums that she wants to change around, or if there's vocal parts or vocal patterns that she wants, she's going to make the change.
yeah,
But if you, in these types of projects, if you resign yourself over to that, um, then there's no issue. It's when you try to combat against that the issue can arise, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
if it's like somebody coming in. I always look at I'm not saying she's like this in any way, but I always look at like somebody like Billy Corgan, and he is the guy, and he's basically the dude that's writing all the stuff. He's singing it all. He's writing all the riffs. And what he says goes, and that's it. And if you don't like it, well, fucking beat it. It's like, but I say that, in my opinion, if you're working with someone like that, then you have to resign over to that, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
say with her, and it's not a manner of, it's my way or the highway. It's this is my suggestions, and what can you bring around that? And maybe we decide together that we want to make a change. And I'm totally cool with that because it's already been presented in that way. It is a project that was brought to me. I came in, and I will follow her guidelines with that. And there's never an issue. She changed this part, or she wanted me to change this part, or no. That's what I signed up for. So it's okay. We'll have deliberations. We have had many deliberations over parts. And I think, quite honestly, I think the songs have gotten stronger as a result of it. But at the end, it's we all trust Jean. We all trust her direction. And if you're part of the project, you trust it. And if you cannot trust it, then you're not part of the project. So it's pretty.
Yeah. And when I was researching about the band, I saw that Lindsay O'Connor was doing like vocals for Doom Eternal video games. How cool is that?
Amazing. It's awesome.
That's yeah. Did you play the game?
She is a superstar. She's amazing. Like I can't wait to put this album together, be a part of this record with all of them, obviously. But Lindsay Lindsay's a fucking diamond in the rough. I think like she's just an immense talent, writing wise. She's a fucking brilliant writer. I can't wait to see what she does lyrically. We haven't gone there yet. But I know she will write some stuff for this for sure, and I'm anticipating some really really great lyrics, and I'm very excited to be working with her.
Yeah, and did you hear the Doom Eternal soundtrack? It's like really heavy metal soundtrack.
It's like, but I know
yeah, the game is killing zombies, with whatever. But like the soundtrack is it's like a genty, heavy metal, like motor sounding heavy. So actually, it's really good. I was surprised when I heard heavy metal. So yeah, like I was like, wow, this is great. So it's really cool.
She also does another project with Jean and Sylvia. I think it's Cat Nation, if I'm saying it right. And she's some singing. It's like industrial, and she does some like creepy singing, and she's quite diverse with with her vocals, and a powerhouse when she's singing heavy, beautiful voice when she's singing soft, and industrial. She's covering all the gambits. And
amazing.
put it well,
Yeah. Okay, and can you tell me something about your like biggest vocal influences? Like, can you name some of your biggest influences?
Absolutely, I'll name you 3 right now: John Tardy, David Vincent, and Max Cavalera.
Amazing, like 10 out of 10. Yeah, especially like I don't know who's better. Like what I like about their vocals is like everybody has like each of their vocals has like the character of their own. They don't sound the same, which is like amazing. So yeah, it's not like
we sound very different from one another, and all 3 are fucking pros, man. Holy shit, they're awesome. I just saw Soulfly, which I hadn't seen Soulfly. I've seen Sepultura, but I never saw Soulfly. I saw them maybe 3 weeks ago or something. Amazing. Like, I mean, he just commands the stage. He's he's Max. Like, awesome.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I'm going to see Obituary. I haven't seen Obituary in a long time. So I'm you hold on a second. You're leaving? All right, I'll see you later. Sorry about that.
Yeah, like the Tard is definitely probably like one of the most brutal sounding ever, like in heavy metal, in the entire heavy metal universe. Like Tard is like probably one of the most brutal sounding vocals ever.
Amazing. So we had I can't remember if we played with them or if I think we just went to the show, and it was somewhere out in Massachusetts, out in Western Mass. And I was playing basketball. There was a basketball net there, so I was shooting hoops. And he comes out. He's like, "Hey, want to play 21?" I was like, "With me?" Like, of course I want to play 21. So we did. We played, and he was the fucking coolest guy. He didn't know shit about me or anything like at the time. You know, I was in infestation, but we had no encounter before that, and you know, so I was kind of a little starstruck there, and you know, but you know, I'm not a guy who's going to be up anyone's ass. So we was just cool. We were just playing, and you know, and he kicked my ass in 21. I was like, oh, well, at least it was John Toddy that beat me. Fuck. Yeah, super cool guy.
Amazing. Yeah, but like your first death metal album was it like Possessed or was it Death? What was it? Like, how did you get into death metal?
Death metal. It was not Possessed. Yeah, it might have been Scream Bloody Gore or Slowly We Rot, maybe.
Yeah, slowly.
Yeah, it was somewhere in that same era where, you know, I mean, I had a bunch of metal, you know, I had Venom and stuff like that. But I mean, if we're talking like pure death metal, probably one of those two records.
And did you used to know Chuck Schuldiner?
Could have been Altus of Madness too. I don't know, somewhere in that range.
Did you used to know Chuck Schuldiner? Maybe.
I met Chuck. Very super nice guy. I met him before he was sick, or maybe he was sick at the time, but he was still playing. I saw them years before. I'd seen them on the Leprosy tour.
Yeah,
and but I did not meet him then. I met him years later when I was in Cryptopsy, and we had been with Cryptopsy. We had been he had gotten really sick, or he was very sick at this point.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the money because in the States
I know.
And it's a disgrace.
I know.
The medical is a disgrace. And hopefully you have medical, and if you don't, you're fucked. And he was in a position where he didn't have the money for his operation, and they were doing a benefit show for him. And we got offered to come, or we got asked if we could come down to Florida to do this benefit show. And as soon as that offer came in, I was like, oh, fuck, absolutely. You come down, they want bands to come down, learn a song, just play a song or two, learn a couple songs, and then they would raise money. And so I was super excited about it, but it wasn't because nobody in the band wanted to do it or anything like that. We all wanted to do it, but I think we had a prior engagement. We had another series of shows or something we couldn't get out of to do that. So we ended up having to decline, which was a shame. But I think they had raised, I don't know, 20 or 30 grand towards a $200,000 operation or something. And shortly after they passed because they didn't have the money. It was a fucking disgrace.
Yeah.
You're talking about one of the greats, really one of the greats.
Yeah, I mean, Serbia's healthcare is bad, but like it's nowhere near American healthcare. Like American healthcare is like, you either have money or you die. It's no in between. It's just like insane. Like, but yeah,
it's terrible. And so, I lived up in Canada, and the second I came into that country, it is not perfect. It is far from perfect. But there's something to be said about walking into a country with no citizenship or no landed immigrancy and still having medical. The second I walked into the country, I mean, my wife was very sick, and we had medical bills that were hundreds of thousands of dollars. It would have sunk us, and it covered it. So there, say what you will about the Canadian, it is by far not perfect. In a lot of ways, it sucks. But it's nowhere near the shit pile that the medical situation here is in the States. It's awful.
So do you want
medical? You are fucked.
Yeah. So do you want to say like that the American healthcare system is like to blame for the death of Chuck Schuldiner? Like, is it 100% that, or?
No, you know what? I can't say that it's 100%, but that is what I heard. I don't know the intricacies of how that was, but that was something that was told to me by several sources. So I mean, I go with I'm just going on what people had told me, and and also being American and knowing that it's it can be disastrous. And
I heard like James Murphy, when he was sick, he had some I'm not sure if he had some tumor or something. Like he spent like a Ferrari on medical bills.
Jesus
like it's
Christ.
like I think he mentioned like $500,000 or
Oh,
250,000, something like that, like insane amount of money. And I was like, really? Like, is this even possible? Like, how can that? Who gives you that kind of bill? Like, it's insane. Like,
and the perception here in a lot of ways is, well, work for it. It's like,
yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's just
yeah,
and
it's not the way to, you need to, I've often had this discussion with people, and
yeah,
not to get political on any of this shit, but
yeah,
it, people would say like, oh yeah, you're in Canada, there's only 30 million people. So yeah, it's a lot easier to have medical. I said, but but we pay for that shit.
yeah,
It comes out of our fucking taxes.
yeah,
We
yeah,
pay
yeah,
for that on
yeah,
every week. We pay for it. So if you've
yeah,
got a pool, it doesn't matter if you've got a pool of 30 million or fucking
yeah,
150 million. If we're all paying
yeah,
it,
yeah, 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 yeah,
it covers it. So that point to
yeah.
me is moot. I mean, it's just common sense. It's logical.
Yeah, yeah, I had the surgery and like foot surgery, it was nothing serious, but like, it was free and like, my staying there was free and food was free. And I think they even gave me back money for like the bus tickets. And that's like Serbia's budget, Serbia 6 million people country's budget. Like, so yeah, I had like, it's a minor, minor surgery, nothing like but yeah, it just shows you like how bad the healthcare in the US is. Like,
And it's whether people want to admit it or not, it's definitely an issue. Like, I mean,
yeah, 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 yeah,
whether you
absolutely.
have it or not, I have insurance, and it doesn't make a difference. I still know it sucks. It's like,
Yeah,
like, fine, great. I might not lose my house over it, but
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
everyone's in my position. So
yeah, yeah,
everyone should have
yeah, yeah.
medical.
It's like universal health, universal right, to live and to have healthcare, water,
Absolutely.
whatever. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, I think people would exchange not having it versus waiting in line for fucking 10 or 12 hours, which it can be in Canada. I've waited 8 hours at a fucking hospital before.
yeah,
Sometimes. So, okay, so yeah, fine. You have a choice. You wait for fucking 8 or 10 hours. Yeah, does it suck? Of course
yeah,
it does.
yeah.
Or
You pay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you don't have fucking, come on. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. And but let's move on to Cryptopsy. So how did you end up in Cryptopsy? Like how did that happen?
Well, I knew those guys for a few years before. I've been friends with I was friends with Steve and Flo and Dan and Lord Worm, and so we were already good friends. When I moved up to Montreal to be with my wife, and so when I had moved, I tried to keep Infestation going. It's something that I wanted to do. I would have come down. I was coming down regularly, so I had the impression that this would work. But I mean, it for whatever reason it sort of fell apart. I mean, as soon as that fell apart, that it was sort of okay. Well, we'll disband. You're up there. We're here. This isn't going to work. Okay, fine. And within a month, I think they asked. I think Flo called me up and said, "Hey, Lord Worm's out. He's leaving. Do you want to come down and try out? You want to come down and play a couple songs or whatever?" So I said, well, yeah, of course. So I went. I learned two tracks or three tracks. I forget. I think it was two. I came down and learned them to the best of my ability, and came down. And after we were done, it was like, you're in. So it was really, I mean, it was as simple as that. But I mean, nothing about Cryptopsy is simple. So it was a matter of a fucking shitload of work to try to get those songs down, and then subsequently all the rest of the songs down. I spent hours and hours and hours, countless hours, on learning the songs and getting everything tight and precise, and walk in with I wanted to walk into those jams and not have anyone say, yeah, you're a half step behind, or I wanted the fucking shit down. And I worked very hard to do that. I was focused, and I wanted to be part of that project,
Yeah.
part of that band, and worked out. helped that I knew the guys too. I'm sure. I was already good friends with those guys, but the work was still there. Those guys worked their asses off. That is one thing that we with Cryptopsy is we were very serious about practice and jams. I mean, we were playing 2, sometimes 3 days a week. It was not a it wasn't a once every few weeks or any of this kind of shit. We fucking played and music showed, and live performance showed.
Amazing.
That we practiced. Yeah.
And what was like your first Cryptopsy album that you heard? Was it the first one or the second one, like Blasphemy, or was it None So Vile?
First one I heard would have been Blasphemy.
And you were blown away or not?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was. I think when I met them, they had just released that record or something at the time. So yeah, love that record still to this day. I think it's a groundbreaking record. I think it's a groundbreaking record, maybe even more than. And I like None So Vile more, but I think maybe that record's more groundbreaking just because when they had put that album out, nobody was doing that.
Yeah.
That.
And they had such a loud bass on the first album. Like
very much so. Well, the songs are killer. I used to love playing those ones actually. Though when fine the None So Vile ones, I was obviously because I am a huge fan of that record. So I love to do those songs, but there's something about doing Born Headless and I mean it's demonstration. I love like these songs are just catchy as fuck. Really catchy but mean and yeah.
And the creature on the artwork looks like something from Lovecraft. Like it reminds me even of Sepultura's Arise album cover, like this creature with an eye or whatever. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's like the case or not, but yeah, it's
no. I think there's something to do with that. Don't hold me to this because I might be off on this a little bit, but
yeah.
I believe that album covers artwork. I forget the label that put that out at the time.
Let me check. I don't know. Give me a second.
It was Displeased Records, maybe.
Let me check.
Forget. They had a deal that was in place, and I think it was Displeased Records.
Invasion Records.
Oh, it was Invasion, right? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
maybe Displeased put it out after. So okay, maybe it was Invasion first. I forget what it was, but whatever it was, whoever had put it out had put they had artwork that they wanted for it that they didn't take, and they used that artwork. They had no idea who the fuck this was that put this artwork together, right? So that I remember, like they were like, "Yeah, sure, it's great. We love the art. I mean, it's iconic artwork. It ended up becoming, certainly the album's iconic. So the artwork, certainly represents that as well. And but it was not something they chose.
Yeah. So it was given to them. Yeah. So it was given to them, right?
Yeah, I think the label had just said, "No, I'm not going to use what you guys have. I'm going to use this." And or it was one of those things where, oh, here's the album, and oh, there's the artwork. Stuff we asked for. It's kind of one of those like, I think it was kind of like that. That it was they had submitted something else, and then this guy, whoever it was, had decided, well, it's not what I want. I want this.
Yeah.
Different era
of music. Yeah. I must say I like None So Vile more than the first one, but like the first one is like such a dirty animal. Like it's more noisy and with a poor production, but it still sounds great. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
it's raw. I agree. It's raw.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things because I heard None So Vile. I was with Flo. It was Flo and my wife. He had a back in the day. He had a Le Car. So he had this little car with this booming system in the car. Fuck, it cranked. And he's like, you want to hear the new? It's not released yet, obviously. And this is the final mix of it. You want to hear it? Fuck, of course I want to hear it. So we were driving around, and the first thing I said to him was, "Jesus, man, these fucking drums are like cannons." And the production on None So Vile versus Blasphemy is just, it's leagues different. But they both have their, they both have their
flavor.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And so how challenging was for you, like, to step in the shoes of Lord Worm? Like, how crazy was that for you?
I mean, it was beyond an honor, for starters. But I as much as I didn't want to do what he had done, we had very different styles, and I wasn't about to, clip his style. Like,
Of course,
I'm not gonna, obviously, I'm not gonna do that. But I needed to find a way that it could also meld with what he was doing. We don't sound anything alike. But I wanted to make sure that, that the song still carried weight when I was singing the songs. I mean, there were two camps that were part of this. There was the camp of like, these songs are fucking horrible with him singing. Me, this is a disaster. And then there were people who were more open minded and were just like, fuck, he's doing his own thing. And so I mean, and that's normal. I mean, you're gonna get that.
Yeah, of course.
You have an iconic guy like Lord Worm. You have a guy that is a master at lyricism, and you've got a front man that is, unparalleled. So certainly to step into that role, I mean, I had the confidence, for sure. I felt very confident coming in. But I knew what was coming. I knew it was, that
of course,
there was going to be some ridicule for it. But I honestly, I can easily push that shit aside. I don't fuss about it. It never fazed me and never hit me, not ever. So that was a benefit for me, so to enable me to be able to just go out and do what I wanted to do, and learn those songs, and add my own character to it, and then moving forward to propel the band forward as best as I could as the front man.
Yeah. I mean, you can always love both singers. So yeah, that was the case with me. I never had the grudge. Like, I was like, at the point when I heard like None So Vile, like for the first time, I was amazed by it. But then I heard Whisper Supremacy, and I was like, okay, the new singer, but it sounds great. So yeah, I didn't have like any grudge against or whatever. It was amazing. Yeah.
Just you just look at both artists as artists, and and each person's going to have their own, and their own way of doing things. And I think it worked for both of them. I mean, it certainly worked with him, and I just came in and just did what I had to do, and like I said, I had the confidence in my writing, I had the confidence in my, being able to put songs together and the patterns and things like that, and I just went with it, just blocked everything else out.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And so, like, what is the meaning behind Whisper Supremacy? I was always like, what was that? Like, what's a Whisper Supremacy? I could never like understand what was that all about. So can you explain, please?
Yeah, I think it had a little bit of tongue in cheek in the sense of, maybe we could quietly, we could whisper that we're moving up the ranks here,
Yeah, which you guys did actually. So
so I mean, it was certainly a tongue-in-cheek approach to, the band had a lot of tongue-in-cheek shit like that, lots of it, in flyers to, lyrics and things like that. So we wanted to do something that was not going to be obvious, so blatant as, hey, we're ready for the next level. And I think with that album, when we were incredibly confident about that record, and when we had come out of the studio, we were just like, okay, now this, I remember it distinctly that we were like, okay, this could be a fucking huge album right now, like it really could be.
Yeah.
And the Whisper Supremacy sort of came out of conversations of like, what can we say that's, that fits that mold, but it isn't such a, like a dick kind of comment, And I think I said, well, something supremacy, or and then I think Flo had said, well, maybe Whisper, and then we were like, oh shit, Whisper Supremacy, So it was like one of those kind of moments of, we'll join these two songs, These two words. And that's really what it was. It was, although we felt that we were certainly gonna do well with that record. It wasn't something that we were trying to be facetious about it, or like a jerk about it, or overconfident, things like that. It was more or less a, we feel it and we'll quietly suggest it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Quietly suggested, like the Whisper Supremacy. I love it so much. Amazing. Yeah. And so like when you look back to the lyrics of this album, like what was like the inspiration for you for that album? I mean the lyrics in that album. What inspired you to write the
a lot, that record, there was a lot of personal stuff that's on there too, that I had written from a personal perspective. I had written as a personal perspective, but I had also written it as you or anyone, someone else. And I did that. That was by design. That I would write. So I didn't want to write a lot of, and I don't believe I have a lot of I or me or whatever. It was mostly that kind of thing. But I mean, certainly, I'll write from personal experience. A lot of it's, anguish and, music. Music to me has gotten me through a lot, in my life. It really has, to be able to have a voice to just say what you got to say and express it, and whether it's in the I or whether it's in the you, or whatever sort of way it's presented or represented, it always will come back as more or less a personal experience. Not everything, not all. I will write some from a fantastical approach, certainly. But if there's something about emotions, or if there's something about darkness or things like that, generally it'll come from a personal perspective.
And is it like hard for you not to write words like you or I in the lyrics? Like there's no you, there's no I. You just write from a third perspective without using pronouns. Is that hard for you? Like,
it definitely. I will, for sure. I'm 100% going to go in that direction, and I will have to think on pulling that out of the equation. For sure, 100%. Like, and I have written like that. Sometimes it'll come naturally, but it's not often that it will come naturally. A lot of times I'll write it as that. But I mean, that's just me.
Of course. Yeah.
It's not. It's not like I go out to say, oh, I want to write the song about me or whatever. Just it kind of happens that I'll write from that perspective, and then there will be a pronoun that would fall.
Yeah.
But I've written a ton of shit that's just story related, that takes any pronouns out of the equation, for sure, 100%. I just did one recently. I don't know if I can say this or not. I'm not sure. What I will say is I wrote a song for another band from Quebec, because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this or not yet. So there is a band in Quebec that I wrote a song. Yes, I wrote the song for them, and there's no I or we or shit like that in it, or very little. Anyways, it's mostly taken from an overhead perspective.
Yeah, amazing. And so what was like the Whisper Supremacy came out, and what was like the response of the fans? Did they like it? Did they hate it? What was the reception? You already mentioned like the vocals, grudge, but
I think the perception was very strong. I think people really dug it. There was, I mean, for sure there was a lot of, we did hear a lot of like, oh, music's great, fucking vocalist sucks, this kind of shit.
But the Lord Worm.
Yeah, so I mean, there was definitely some of that, but I mean, but maybe there's, for whatever reason, those types of comments, or those types of when people were doing reviews or whatever, those types of things carry more weight for whatever reason. Negativity carries a lot more weight. So we did see a fair amount, I think, of that. But then there's always a balance. And then I think over time we certainly saw more and more people like, let's listen to it for what it is. And the songs are fucking beyond aggressive. I mean, one thing I do remember is that we had seen a few people saying, "Oh, these guys are sellouts." Like,
these people are like, people who say that like every band is a sellout after they release the second album. It's like
sellout. Forget them. I remember reading that. We'd laugh. We'd be like, well, okay, yeah. If this is selling out, then cheers to that.
Yeah, of course. Sell more. Sell more of it.
And the album sold well. With Century Media, it did sell well. And it gave us a shit ton more opportunities. It really started to push us in a direction. Everything that had led up to that put us in that position. Once we released that record, then things started to escalate, and we were seeing opportunities that were coming our way that hadn't per se been becoming. Money wise, opportunity shows, things like that. It was just a really a good place to be at that time.
Yeah, amazing. And who did you guys tour with at the time, like when that came out, like when the Whisper Supremacy, like did you have some tour going on?
Yeah, we did tour with Nile a couple times. Gorguts, we did 2 tours with Gorguts. Oh, fuck.
Amazing.
I say this, I've said this in other interviews, and if you haven't heard this, I watched that band every night. Every single night, I would watch from start to finish. They are that band that garners that kind of attention. And fuck it. Yeah, and I love those guys.
Yeah. I mean, my number one death metal band of all time is Gorguts. So yeah,
awesome.
Go figure.
Amazing.
And so
man. I adore Luke. He's one of the finest human beings I've ever met. Like, really a beautiful guy. Yeah, awesome, and fucking incredible musician. Oh my god.
Yeah. The god of dissonance, I would say.
Just leaps ahead of almost everyone. Yeah, it's like he's quite the musician. That tour we also did with Oppressor, and then we did another tour. I think it was on the same album. We did one with Divine Empire, and shit, was a Vader on that tour? I mean, all the tours kind of, but I think that's a couple of the tours right there that we had done.
Yeah. And I forgot to ask you about the artwork for that album. It's so amazing, like the Whisper Supremacy. Like, who did that? Like, it's so good. I love it.
So this is a double. Well, first of all, the artist was Francois Quevillon, good friend of ours, super fucking amazing artist, and just a fucking great guy. Like, what up there with Luke in terms of, and I haven't seen this kid in so long, and it sucks because I really do appreciate him. And we employed him to come up with, actually, for both albums, that and then You'll Beg. And so 2 ways that this came about. The first one was we had found in a National Geographic magazine, we had found the blue background. We didn't use the same thing. We took ideas. So there was a photograph, this absolutely incredible photo of ice and the different the degrees of ice, the years of ice that was behind us. And you could literally see all the different years through this one photo. And so we were like, oh, so we talked to Century Media, and we're like, we want this photo. They reached out to the photographer, and the photographer says, oh, sure, you can use that for fucking whatever, $5,000, something ridiculous. So we were like, no, we're not going to do that. So we crafted something that was similar, and but took the same sort of idea. And then the demon creature was actually, this is kind of funny, but there was, I don't know if you ever had that these books. There was a big sort of a prominent series here that were like kids or young adults. There was a thing called Choose Your Own Adventure. I think it was a Choose Your Own Adventure. So you'd read the book, and it would say at the end of like the particular part, you're like, "Oh, do you want to jump off the bridge, or do you want across the lava?" "Oh, I'll go run across the lava." You go to page 54, and then you read. So that's what these stories were, and there was a series that had this kind of creature that was there. So we adopted the same thing. We didn't want to go through the same shit and try to use the same thing. Nobody fucking knows these books, and we didn't want to, obviously didn't want to plagiarize it and take the same thing. So we took an adaptation of that idea because the creature is really cool, and we took something that was in the same vein but different. And that's how we came up with that. We superimposed that obviously on top of the ice, and the whole design was fire and ice. From the inside, the inlay and all that stuff. Inside it was all fire. Outside it was all ice. And felt it worked.
Amazing. And what was it like working with Pierre Remillard for that album? Like
incredible.
Because he's like one of the best, if you ask me. Like he did a lot of albums.
He has done a ton of albums. He is an absolutely fucking wonderful guy. He's just the coolest guy. Easy, really easygoing. In that kind of environment, and there's obviously we wanted to put the best record that we could put out. So with that comes a lot of, I don't want to say tension per se, although there was a little tension. Like, you're trying to bring out the best in everyone. So, I mean in the sense that we all wanted to bring our A game, our A+ game. And working with somebody like Pierre that could sort of navigate through everyone trying to do that, and then capturing the best takes of whatever, and utilizing, if I have an idea, I want this part to echo over this part here, and he could just boom, he picks up on it. He's like, oh, like this, boom, sets it exactly like that. Yes. So, and he's a genius with that stuff. So anytime you sort of bring up suggestions, whether it's in the mixing room or just the actual recording aspect of it, he's 100% in line with what you're doing, and he knows exactly what you're asking for, and that's a sign of a great engineer, and he is a great engineer.
Amazing, just hands down. And so, what was like your first? Can you recall like first time hearing Gorguts Obscura album? Like
so the first all right, so before the record. Before they had recorded, they recorded in the same studio as we did.
Yeah.
It was Victor Studios in Montreal. Beautiful studio. And so I had the opportunity at the time. They invited me to go listen to them jam. Okay, so they were jamming that album. They only played mostly that.
And when was that? Like,
it was, I just sat in the room and just it was like, first of all, I can't believe I'm here. Secondly, I can't believe I'm here listening to this. And it was them, they had already worked out the songs, obviously, but it was them just, finishing up some of the crafting of the songs and things like that. And it was just amazing to witness that album being put together, but still together, and them just and basically how they had their jam room was all the lights were out, and they had a couple of little like red lights and blue lights and shit. So it was pretty dark in there. And you're listening to that band, and you're listening to a band that just, they're as heavy as they are, they're also quite psychedelic. It's like they've got lots of different noises and things going on that you're hearing live. Like it was just incredible. So that was my first experience with it. But I was also, they were recording at the same time as we were, and they were recording with Pierre. So, he did share some stuff with us, and then I'd go in the studio with them and listen to them. They'd play me the album as they were writing it, or as they were recording it. So I get to hear most of the album before anyone heard it, and that was a privilege. to actually be in the same room. I mean, you know, you don't have to ask me twice. They're like, "Hey, you want to come in?" Yeah, I want to come in, listen to that. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely.
amazing.
I don't give a shit what's going on. I want to hear that. And I had the opportunity several times to sit in and listen to the record being recorded. And to this day, I think that record is one of the most groundbreaking metal records.
Absolutely, yeah. My favorite for sure, like insane. And so you knew like big Steve Hurdle, right? You
I
knew him.
fucking love Myrtle. Fucking devastating shame.
Yeah. So do you have some memory of him? Like,
Absolutely. Well, we actually when we toured with them, we shared the same um, caravan bus thing. Not a bus, but a what do you call those things? Econo line. So we had it was like an extended van, and we did 2 tours with them in an extended van. So I got to know those guys extremely well. You know, I'd already known them, but there's nothing like knowing someone than traveling, 40
yeah, to
days
Canada.
in a fucking van through the States and Canada and shit. Steve was one of the funniest guys you'd ever meet, and good
Amazing.
natured, and he was just such a good dude. Like one of my favorite people. Also, one of my favorite people that I've known in the scene, in any scene. Like
Yeah.
I gravitated towards him. I also got along. I got along with all 3 Steves. They were all Steve.
Yeah, 3
So
Steves. Yeah, Steve
yeah,
Hurdle. Yeah, Steve Cloutier, Steve McDonald. Yeah, 3
absolutely.
Steves. Yeah,
They were
3
all
Steves lineup.
big guys. Yeah, and super
Yeah,
fucking talented, incredibly
yeah,
talented guys.
yeah. And
Uh,
his vocals were monstrous. Like nobody sang like him. Nobody. Like
sounded like
literally.
sandpaper on fucking throat. Just oh god, amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Like nobody sang like him. Nobody ever will. I think
No,
so.
no,
Yeah,
yeah.
just
He was just one of the nicest guys. I don't think anyone could say different. You know, if you didn't get on with Steve Hurdle, you were a total
you're
piece of shit.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
And he was also like really talented musician and a singer, which is amazing. So yeah.
absolutely
And and
great.
did you like yeah. And did you like Negativa?
I
The
love that. Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
that
Man,
was amazing. I mean, like I only heard a couple of songs, and I even heard some unreleased songs as well.
so did I
But yeah,
actually. Funny enough, same thing. I had heard a bunch of stuff that was kind of, um, yeah, it was
yeah,
unreleased. It was unreleased stuff. Yeah,
yeah, unreleased. Yeah,
yeah. I think that band was way the fuck ahead of its time.
yeah.
He
And
was, they
even
were,
Obscura, yeah,
no, yeah, exactly. He had taken Obscura and brought it to Negativa. It's like,
yeah,
how else do you describe it? I don't know. Amazing.
yeah. And
Like
funny thing,
lead
yeah,
writing.
yeah. And funny thing about Obscura, I think it was finished. It was written like finished completely like in September '94. So Obscura was ahead of its time like 5 years at least or something like that, which is insane, just insane.
Truly unreal. Oh yeah. And
Yeah,
I don't think people.
people don't know that. People don't understand the
I
greatness
don't
of
think so.
Gorguts Obscura. They
Yeah, I
don't.
don't get it. I've heard a lot of people be like, no,
Yeah.
not that record. I'm like, oh no, that record. Yes, that record.
Yes. Yeah, it's my one of my favorite, and also like From Wisdom to Hate as well. But yeah, but they're
They,
different records. So yeah,
they
and
are
like
different.
yeah, yeah. But like, what do you think? Like, why is Montreal scene so strong? Like, what these people eat to be that good? I don't get it. Like,
You know, I have said this before. We used to joke about it, saying like, it's the cold weather, and it's the frigidness and things of this sort. And I think there is actually some merit to that, in
yeah,
the sense of people stay indoors, and what else are
and
you gonna do?
playing. Yeah,
Watch
yeah,
TV or play your fucking instrument, you know? And
yeah.
so I do think that that does hold some weight. But we I was speaking with Lord Worm and Luke actually.
Yeah,
We had done an interview together. The three of us had done an interview together for the Growl. Actually, these guys right here, um, the Growl documentary. So it's unreleased right now. But we had done the interview at my house, and it was the three of us. And one of the things that we were talking beforehand, and we do incidentally, we do during the interview as well, is we talk a lot about the fact that in Montreal, above being a music mecca as it is,
yeah, absolutely.
there was something to do about progressive music that resonated tremendously with the people of the 60s and the 70s. So all those bands had done very well, and incidentally, all the bands that had come out, there's a bunch of Quebec bands, Harmonium, and there's a few other ones that had come out that are very progressive, and it has always been a style of music that people have gravitated towards in Quebec, and so we liken the idea that they love this style of music. Kids grew up listening to 70s prog, 60s and 70s prog, and then that resonates into these intricate riffs and these crazy, crazy style that's one, that is a scene. I mean, it's they did create. There's several bands, go through the list of them, that had a certain style that was no one else was playing that style, and so we came to this realization that maybe that had a lot more to do with it than certainly
some environment issues.
Yeah. So I mean that does make sense, to us that where you get all these brilliant musicians that sure they're staying inside, okay, fine, but they have had to have gotten a start with what they were writing, whether it's subconsciously or whether it's more direct in what their parents and family were listening to, and that just kind of trickles down, and then they write some of these absolutely iconic records.
Yeah. And like in the end, you have to blame it on Voivod. Like,
Absolutely.
I think like they're like all the death metal bands were inspired by Voivod, like 100%. So yeah, whether it's Gorguts or Crypts. Yeah. So like I think they were like the most influential band of heavy metal bands there.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, the biggest band out of for that style of music certainly out of Canada, and and maybe one of the largest acts of all time, like with real metal.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys. I actually toured with those guys when Eric Forster was in the band, and we had done a tour. It was 5 shows or 6 shows. It was the Polywog Festival in Quebec. We just basically went all around Quebec, and it doesn't matter where the fuck you go in Quebec, people come out to the shows. It's just an amazing scene for music, especially metal. And so I certainly get to know those guys. But another band that I got to sit, I watched them 5 or 6 times on the side of the stage and just blown away at the intricacy of the songs and the tightness. They're just amazing. They work as a unit, like the bands that it just works, and that was one of the bands that it really worked.
Yeah. So you used to know Piggy, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And what is your favorite?
But I did know him. I met him there. We did chat and stuff like this. So I mean, I knew him well enough to be like, hey man, how's it going? Stuff like this. But we never like hung out. We never went drinking.
I get it. Yeah. Okay, and so let's move back to Cryptopsy. So like in 2000 you guys released And Then You'll Beg. So like, and I think it's a really underrated record actually, like that it has like some shitty reviews on Encyclopedia, and I don't know why. I don't get why. There's maybe a song or two that's like it has some pinch harmonics riff that's I don't like, but as as a whole, like the album is great. So I don't know why did it have that hate when it came out as well or not?
It was a mixed bag, for sure. We did certainly, again, we heard, we heard the naysayers, and we heard the people who were very pro Cryptopsy at that
Yeah.
where we where we were. There was definitely, certainly a good group of people who were into the record. Like, we toured on that record. Love the songs. I think the songs are great on that record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Some of the best songs that we, I think, had put together at that time. Like, between two records, some of my favorites are on that. So, although I do think Whisper Supremacy is a better record, I think there are some better songs on that one. More intricate songs, different writing style that we weren't writing in that fashion for was more fucking, like, fucking smash them in. This record had a lot more progressive elements, I think, to the record. So, when we went into the recording studio for this one, we were fucking pumped. We were ready, and we I think we all loved the song. We loved the material. So that was a big plus for us. So fine. I've seen all those things that people show me over the years, like some of the reviews on Metal Encyclopedia and shit. Like, it's not everyone's gonna like everything, and opinions like assholes. Everyone's got them, right? So it doesn't really matter. But the people, what matters to me is the people who dig it. People who don't dig it, fine. Out of my fucking, they're out of my existence. They're out of my life. Like, it's gone. However, the people that do like that record or love that record, those are the people that I certainly want to surround myself with, or certainly want to that certainly will take their interest in hear what they have to say. Some of these, like you said, some of these people that write some of that shit, it's just like all they write is like, this fucking record sucks. They fucking blow this and that. Okay, but why? Why does the record suck?
Yeah. But I think that, like, people are by default haters. Like, most of, like, you have specific amount, like certain amount of people who are just haters of everything new. Like, so they sold out after the first demo, and they're like stuck in that loop. So everything past that demo is like selling out to them. So I think that's the problem.
Yeah, because I mean, there's there's nothing about the record that sucks. I mean, it's like like, look, I was there. Those guys, we worked fucking hard on that record, man. And and it fine. It may not speak to you, but come on, does it suck? Fuck, like, really? like, listen to those guys. You're talking about fucking elite musicians here. These guys are not fucking has been fucking nobodies. It's like, so that those kind of comments are worthless to me. Tell me why you think the record sucks. This particular, the riffing style, or what, give me some fucking reason why the record sucks, and I'll listen. I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
But if it just, if you're just spouting out bullshit, then I don't care to hear for it. But that record did very well for us too, and that record afforded us a lot of opportunities. It was the first time we get to go to Japan. We we had bigger tours, bigger shows, more money. I mean, it was at that stage, it was really, I think at that stage, we were about as close to a, if you want to call it marquee named band. I think we were as close as we were going to be at that point. We were on the fringe. I think it was either going to happen on that record, or it would have happened on the next record after it. We never got there with that. So we don't know. But I think we had enough forward momentum that, I'm just saying, we were there. We saw it. We know that these opportunities were coming, and we did see a lot of industry people. Their heads were turning, and there was more and more people going to shows, and we're selling out shows. We were headlining and selling out shows, and so I mean, it was happening, and so I think I think in a lot of ways, the record got a lot of good reviews out of it, and I think a lot of people really dig that record. I still have people come to me and tell me, "Fuck, man, that's my favorite record of all time." Like, well, awesome, that's great, man.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, if that's like I said, and this goes same thing when I said about when you're writing, but when you release records, when you released it, it's gone. It's not yours. It's someone else's impressions. And
Absolutely, yeah,
so we can only bring it to a certain point, and then from there, it's other people own that shit, you know.
yeah,
And I, by owning it, I mean they own their own feelings and impressions of it and stuff like that. Um, so we put out the best record that we could possibly put out, and we were very confident about the songs on that record, and we loved the design work that we did for the album, and the sort of the whole the whole feel of what that record was, and we felt really really good going into that release.
yeah, amazing, yeah. But I think the problem with Cryptopsy audience, like fans, is that most of them like can't pass see anything after None So Vile. I heard a lot of people like saying, "Oh, None So Vile," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you have other albums, boy." you know. And not only that, like the entire Cryptopsy audience is like kind of split on everything, like on almost all albums. So you have like people who like None So Vile, you have people who also like Whisper Supremacy but don't like the next one, and then you have people who don't like the next one or like the next one, and then you have people who hate the Unspoken King. So I think like
So
the
strange.
Cryptopsy, the Cryptopsy fans are so divided. I don't know, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's funny. Right? Dan and I used to, Lord Worm and I used to laugh. We
yeah,
get together and like we're good friends, so we get
yeah,
together, have a bunch of beers and just shooting the shit and talking about like if they only knew the big joke. Like for us, like we're fucking laughing about it. Like together, we're like it's amazing. Like looking, it's
yeah.
like that. It's like it's like the spaceship. We were up in fucking space and looking down at all this like all these comments being and just these people are like so vehement about like their what they exactly what you said, how they love this record, they don't love that record, or they
yeah.
this singer, they hate that whatever. And we would just sit there way over it, Eagles view, just laughing about it, man.
Cool. Yeah. And so, but why did you leave the band in the end? Like, what happened? Like, because I'm not like really like deeply, familiar with the band's history. So why did you leave the band? Like, what happened?
I mean, it was time. There was a few things that had been going on that schedules weren't working out,
Hmm.
and without getting too involved into it, it made sense that I would step down and let them have the schedule they needed, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, it was a tough decision. I will say that. I can't say that I wanted it to go that way. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when certain things don't work, certain things aren't working out, and neither side's ready to make the change. Like it just unfolded, and it wasn't working anymore. It was really what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
in a nutshell, that's basically what happened. I mean, I was very close with those guys, and then for a bit, we weren't as close. But time comes back around, and things change, and I think people understand situations. It's not a personal thing; it just wasn't working anymore,
Yeah.
and that's it. So we I mean, I'm still good friends with Flo, and Flo's basically the guy that I still chat with for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But and Dan also. I mean, Lord Worm. All the old guys, Steeve and shit like that. Like, I mean, these are all. These were my first friends in the band to begin with, so
Yeah.
they're still friends. Generally speaking, when I leave bands, or if I've left bands, or bands dissolve, or whatever the case is, 99% of the time, I'm still very good friends. I maintain good friendships with the people, because you go through a lot. It's like a marriage, really, with five
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so there are there are points where you disagree, and there are points where you guys are on fucking point 100%. And as long as you're on point 100% most of the time, those friendships will stand the test of time. And with few of those guys at Cryptopsy, definitely has. And I see it changing ever.
Absolutely, yeah, amazing. I mean, nevertheless, like the legacy, even like with 2 albums, but these were strong 2 albums. Like they were not like some willy-nilly albums. Like they made the mark on death metal. So yeah, which is really amazing.
Fucking privilege, man. An absolute privilege.
Yeah. Okay, and so can you tell me, like, for like last question? So some of your favorite albums. Can you name, let's say, 5 of your favorite albums of all time?
Pink Floyd, Animals.
Amazing.
Mark Flanagan, Field Songs.
I don't know who's that.
Check them out, dude. Amazing.
What's that? What genre is that? I never heard it. So
kind of bluesy, dirty bluesy, psychedelic, alternative rock kind of. I don't know. He's amazing.
Okay. I'll check it out. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Do yourself the favor. Neurosis. Which one? Let me come back to that. I'm not on that one.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4. Let's go. I'll go Sepultura Roots.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, but I'm still like my favorite is Beneath the Remains, but yeah, but that's just me. So yeah.
Now I also love.
Yeah.
I'll go Portishead.
Yeah, Portishead. Yeah, like this band is so amazing. I don't know, like amazing band. Like it's just insane. Like yeah. I usually don't listen to that kind of music, but yeah, like Portishead is like one of a kind probably. So yeah. Like really unique.
You know what? I think fuck, I don't know. I think Beth Gibbons is probably one of the best in the business
of all time. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just like insane, like, and all three albums are like insane. Like, I'm not sure if they're.
Yeah, all 3 are great. They are. They're all. But that one is just a dark, dirty, filthy album. Oh man.
Yeah, it's like it's not heavy metal, but it's so dark. Like
it is super dark. That record is so dark, man. Like I keep telling people, I'm like, yeah, it's not metal. Who cares? Like that record is.
It's not metal, but it's fucking heavy. Yeah.
It smothers you. It's like, yeah, I know. One of my favorites. All right, I'll go back to Neurosis, and I'm gonna say A Sun That Never Sets.
Yeah, I think I listened to that album a lot when it was some rain. Like, yeah, that's what I remember. Heavy rain in that album.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, this is just Christ, I could take any of those out and add it, 20,000 times over. It's so many records I love.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you mentioned like Portishead, like because like I don't think that metalheads listen to Portishead. So
they're missing out.
Yeah.
But I'm a guy that listens to everything. I am definitely a big metal guy for sure. I've always been a big metal guy, but 70s rock and alternative music, from the 90s and shit. Fucking old school hip hop. I love. There's so many styles of music that just because you're a metal fan, the last thing you want to do is to pigeonhole yourself into one style of music and that's it, and you won't listen to anything else. Like I never understood that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Animals. So like recently I watched Nick Mason's Sourceful of Secrets live, and they were so good. Like the entire set, like old songs of Pink Floyd, it's just amazing. Like 2 hours, 2 or 3. I forgot whether it was 2 or 3 hours, but it was an amazing show. It's just insane. Like,
I wanted to go see him, and I missed him. There was something I had planned or something, and when I was in Montreal, he had come around, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm going to go to that." But I had something else that was happening, so I missed it. But yeah, that would have been awesome. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan.
Yeah, me too.
All eras of them too, except for like the last few records. I don't really care for.
Actually, yeah. Like, but yeah, I for some reason I never liked From Wall onwards. I liked everything until Animals, and after that, like, it was a solo band of some guy. So
yeah, it was sure. I mean, look, I love The Wall, and I also love the Final Cut, but it is definitely a Roger Waters solo record. I mean, like, call it what it is. It's pretty close to. The Final Cut is absolutely a solo record of his, and then after that, I mean, it becomes, it's just not Pink Floyd anymore. It's
but even like on The Wall, it wasn't Pink Floyd to me because it's only him. So, and I always hated that. Like, man, you cannot be like, you're not the only Pink Floyd guy. You cannot be that. But people love that album, of course, but I don't. So yeah.
It's funny because he's a guy that I tremendously respect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Roger Waters, I think, is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. I really think the guy is an exceptional fucking lyricist and a musician, and his arrangements and stuff like this. I think the guy is, but there's always that tale of you never want to meet your heroes, and he is definitely a guy I never want to fucking meet. It's like,
yeah.
You just know he talks about Pink Floyd. He talks about it, and he's like, oh, those other guys. He can't even name the band. Like, why?
Yeah,
man?
yeah. Because his ego is
sky high.
Yeah. But like, it's him, so he can do that.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't like that, but yeah, he's in a position to do that. So yeah,
and he does.
but like, Atom Heart Mother, I mean, come on, or something like all Pink Floyd, including Animals. It was amazing. Okay, so do you have some final words for this interview, because it's like almost 2 hours long interview?
Is it almost 2 hours? Nice. Awesome. Yeah, you know what, man? This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Watch Agoraphobic news, and hope you learned some shit tonight. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a nice day. See ya. Goodbye.
All right, you too. Take care, man.
Goodbye. Hey people, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Agoraphobic News. Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel to help us grow. You can also support us on Patreon by becoming one of our patrons. And big shout out to our patrons Amber Dawn, Peter Jonovic and Season of Mist for supporting our work. So stay tuned for another interview and keep it metal.